Today, I'm gonna show you how to turn this into this, or like this. Hey guys, I'm Ashley, and this is Chip Build, so let's jump into how we make these Sublimation Snowglobe beer can glasses. So let's jump in. So I got this Libbey glass jar from Mother Tumbler. I'll put a link down in the description below. I got these glasses specifically because they are sublimatable, but also there's a hole at the bottom and it's double walled, and you can turn this into a snow globe cup kind of tumbler thing. And so I really want to try it out because I thought that was a very interesting concept. And so the directions on the website do say that you need to sublimate the glass first, and then you can fill it with your liquid, which totally makes sense because you don't want to be heating up all that liquid in there. So for this video, we are going to do two different Halloween designs. I did already press and sublimate the first one, and we did this kind of Disney Halloween Mickey kind of feel. This file is available for free in my Facebook group, so feel free to join that down below. It's kind of just a place where you can ask questions and get some honest answers and not any kind of like snarkiness or anything. And I'll occasionally post free files into the group. So for the second glass, we are going to do this kind of Halloween scene that I made in Adobe Illustrator. It's a very simple design. I just kind of wanted the general aspect of spookiness. I didn't want to do anything too crazy. So we kind of have like the iron gate, the wonky house, you know, the witch on the moon, bats, ghost, and like a tombstone or two. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out, and then we can tape it to our glass to sublimate it. So for this, we're just going to use this paper cutter that I have. I'm going to try and cut it as close to the line as possible. I want very minimal white space without ruining my image. And that looks pretty good to me. Now I did have the sides of the design overlap a little bit, that way we can really figure out how we want this tumbler to wrap. So I'm going to try and get this really close. And I think I hit it just about perfectly. And so now we can cut down the sides. Maybe not quite perfectly, but I did pretty close. Alright, so we have that all cut out and prepared. So anytime you're working with sublimation on an item, you want to make sure it's very clean from any lint, dust, or your finger oils, because you want to make sure nothing is going to get in between the sublimation ink and your blank. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take some 91% alcohol and just spray it onto a paper towel and then wipe the glass down and let it dry. This is just going to help ensure that our bond is good. And you wouldn't want to go to all this work and have something silly like this mess it up. And now we can turn our heat press on. So I am using the Cricut heat press, and I'm going to just turn this button and let it heat up. Now there is a lot of debate about using glass in the Cricut mug press. A lot of people have said that it breaks their Cricut machines and they just can't do it. And so the reason I think glass potentially breaks it is because the material that the glass is made of, I think just makes everything too hot. I think it puts out too much heat as opposed to like a ceramic mug that you're sublimating in there, which is what this machine is meant for. So what I've done is I've cut out a circle from an old silicone mat that I have, and I'm just going to drop it in there on top of that metal plate, and that should help minimize this breaking, hopefully. I have already done one cup and it seems to be fine. I did notice though that as I was pressing this for like the second time, that the counter stopped working and I had to set a timer on my phone. And then because this glass is a little bit skinnier, I bought this silicone pad that we can wrap around in there to give it a nice tight hold. So what I'm going to do is as the cup press is heating up, I'm going to drop my silicone in there. So I'm just going to drop it in there while it's heating up. That way the silicone can heat up as well. Because what you don't want when you're sublimating glass especially is you don't want any cold spots, because there is a bigger risk of the glass breaking or cracking because of the cold spot in the cup as it's heating up. So I think this design is going to end up being really cute, and I think what we're going to do for this one specifically, I think we're going to have like a blood drip kind of tumbler going on in here, and I think for the Mickey one we're going to do the traditional glitter snow globe. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap this around and see what I'm working with, because I want to see how well I did at making this design. And it overlaps a little bit, trying to see by how much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this up a little bit more. I do want to do my best at getting this in a good way. Okay, so we could trim off that one side. I'm going to trim this side a little more, but not quite all the way. And so what I'm doing is just peeking in through the glass to see how close that is, and that's pretty close. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try and center this the best that I possibly can. And when you're doing sublimation as well, you wanna make sure that your design is wrapped really nice and tight. So I'm gonna place this in my cup holder just so I can see what I need to do with this design. You can get this on my Etsy shop. So I'm gonna try and line this up as best as possible. So to me, that looks really good, and I'm really pushing the edges as tight as I possibly can. And then now I'm gonna take some of my tape and just really pull the one side of the paper to the other and really make sure that's down, and then we can come and do a longer strip down the middle. And again, I'm just really pushing that to make sure it's nice and tight. Then we can get up here, and what we are gonna do is we're gonna put tape all around the top and the bottom. I have had issues before in the past doing sublimation where there's been ghosting on the top and bottom, and so I wanna try really hard to make that not be a thing on this one. And then so I'm just gonna take pieces of tape and really press down. Like, I wanna make sure that this piece of paper is not gonna move while it's being pressed. I know this is a Halloween project, but there will be no ghosting allowed in this project. And then once we got this all taped down, then we can tape our butcher paper on the outside to catch any kind of dye that's gonna leak out of the paper. So I'm just going around making sure that's all pressed down really well. And now we can move on to the bottom. Really make sure that tape is pushed down. And for this, make sure you are using heat resistant tape. You cannot just use normal tape in this. It's got to be a special kind of tape. And there's like all different kinds. I use this yellow one, but I've seen people use like red and blue. You just got to check out Amazon, what's there, and I'll put a link to what I use in the description. I've never seen these double-walled glass cups like this before until I saw my friend Lauren Quigley post about them on her Instagram, and she is like the tumbler queen, so I'll definitely post a link to her Instagram as well. All right, we're all nice and taped, and now we can get our butcher paper. This is just paper as well that I got from the Cricut infusible ink packs. And I'm just gonna wrap it around here, and then we can make sure this is taped as well. Now you could put 2 pieces, even up to 3, but I found when I did the test of the other one that 1 was fine for me. But definitely do what you think is right for you. What I'm gonna do as well before we get any further, I'm gonna put little marks at the top here and at the bottom so that I know where to turn when we're doing our press. Because I have this as like a full length kind of design, I need to make sure that I'm pressing all sides of the mug. But so our heat press is ready to go, and then we can just drop it in. So I'm gonna line my mark up to the front. Then we're gonna close this. And just in case this counter is not working, I am gonna set my alarm for 4 minutes. Hey Siri, set alarm for 4 minutes. And then now we just wait for it to go. Now, when you are doing any kind of sublimation, you want to make sure you're in a very well ventilated area, or that you're wearing a respirator. This does give off some fumes, and you just want to make sure that you're being safe and that you're wearing the proper PPE. I am doing this in my garage with the door open, so I have plenty of airflow going through, so I don't need to wear a mask for this specific thing. One thing to note too is this is going to be a super hot cup coming out of this mug press. So you got to make sure that you have either heat gloves or silicone or oven mitts, something to protect yourself, because if you just go to grab it, you're going to have a really bad time. Eventually I do want to get some heat gloves, but for now I have these little silicone finger covers that I use when working on my 3D printers, and I grabbed an oven mitt from inside the house. So right now it does look like our counter is working, but I have a feeling when we go to press it for the second time, I think it's going to end up getting really hot, and I think that counter is going to stop working. But so far, so good. This is the second glass that we're sublimating, and it hasn't broken. Let me know down in the comments if you like the Mickey Halloween pattern better or the kind of spooky Halloween pattern. Man, this 4 minutes is taking a long time. And hopefully, if we've done this right, the design will meet at the bottom and it will look continuous. I purposely made it in black at the seam of where it will meet, hoping that it won't be quite as noticeable if it is a little messed up. From what I understand, the way that the Cricut mug press works is that there's no real set time that it is pressing the machine. See, like 4 minutes has been up from what I've understood, it waits until the mug is at a certain temperature, and then that is when it will beep letting you know it's done. But so our 4 minutes is up, and you can see that steam that's coming out from the butcher paper being in there, which is why I'm saying to really make sure that you're in a well ventilated area. Now I have my mark in the front, and I can see my mark in the back, and so I am just going to twist it around, just being extra careful. So that looks fine to me. So then we can maybe a little bit that way. So now we can close it, and then we are going to do another 4 minutes. Hey Siri, set timer for 4 minutes. Then once this press is done, we can do it upside down the front way and then twist it around and do the back as well. Now I have seen some debate where when you go to do the rest of the presses, you only do 2 minutes. But what I found when I did that, the top here, it was a little faint. So I'm gonna just try doing 4 minutes for all of them and just see if we run into an issue or if it's fine. I haven't heard any cracking or any crazy noises, so far so good, I think. Now when we take the glass out to cool down, I do have this other silicone wrap, which is a bit thicker, which is too thick for this cup, that we can set our glass on to cool down, and it's not gonna ruin the table or anything. One thing you might want to have handy as well is some kind of picking tool. That way you can pull off the tape and everything. So as you can see, the Cricut has beeped already, but we still have 2 minutes left in our timer. So I'm just going to go by the timer and not by the Cricut. And that's, I believe it's beeping now because it's recognized that this cup is whatever temperature that it recognizes that tells you, hey, take the cup out if you're done. Now, I personally like to remove the sublimation paper while the glass is still hot. There is some debate about doing it cold or warm. Ideally, as well, you don't want your butcher paper to be taller than your cup. I was just lazy. As you can see, the mug press has stopped counting down, so I believe that is where people are saying that their mug presses are breaking. But once you let it cool down and then start it up again, it should work as normal. At least that's been the case for me. So now what we need to do is flip the cup upside down and do the 2 sides of that design. So I am going to put on my oven mitt for this. Hopefully I can grip it, kind of grab it and flip it upside down like so. And then I have my marking still on the glass, and then I can put it in there. And now we can set our timer again for 4 minutes. My next Amazon purchase is absolutely going to be heat resistant gloves because this was a hot mess trying to pick it up with this mitten. Now, alternatively, if you don't have a mug press, you could do this in an oven. But if you're going to sublimate something in the oven, you have to make sure it's separate from one that you cook food in because of the gases that are released. It wouldn't be safe to cook food in something that you've sublimated in. Okay, our timer has stopped, and now we can flip it for our final press. Remember, just be careful with this. This is really hot. Now, when we go to take the cup out of the press for the final time, we're gonna use our oven mitt. It kind of looks like a shark because I don't want to be burning myself. These work okay for if you're just twisting the can, but I definitely would not pick up and pinch to pull the can out because that heat is going to go through these thin silicone pads really quickly. So our 4 minutes is up, and then we can pull our cup out of here now. And then, so now that I pulled my cup out of there, I'm going to immediately unplug this so that it can cool down and that it's not going to be any kind of fire hazard. Okay, so now while the cup is still hot, I'm going to use this little picker tool that I got from Dollar Tree to start pulling off the tape. Oh, that looks so good! It looks so good. I'm so happy with this. Oh my gosh. So far, I'm not seeing any ghosting, which is amazing. So that tape really does help a lot. And I'm looking for the seam. So our seam, there is this tiniest little amount of misalignment, but you can barely see that. So we're gonna let this completely cool down, and then we can wash off the little bit of paper residue. And then once it's completely cool, then we can move on to adding in our glycerin and all that fun stuff. So for this glass, we are gonna do the blood drip effect to it. And to do that, we are gonna mix some glycerin and baby oil together. The two won't actually mix in the cup. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put some glycerin in, dye it, pour it in, and then fill the rest of the cup with the baby oil, and then it'll kind of give us that blood drip / lava lamp kind of feel. I don't think we're gonna need a lot for this, as much as you would need for like the Starbucks tumblers. Put like that much in and just see where that gets me. And of course, we're gonna use some resin dye, color red. And then we can mix it up. Make sure it's mixed really well. So I think that's pretty good. I think that's as red as we're gonna get it with the colors that I have. I'm just gonna take this syringe, pull up some liquid, like so. Then we're gonna take our cup, and I'm gonna put it in the hole at an angle and kind of tilt the cup, and then just slowly push in the glycerin so that it goes into the cup at an angle and it's not all gonna pool and get stuck or come back out the opening. So I'm just gonna go nice and slow. So you can see there's a lot of air bubbles in my syringe. That's not what we want. I mean, you're always gonna have air bubbles no matter what, but you wanna try to minimize them as much as possible. So if you don't have a syringe, you could just take like a Dixie cup and make a little spout and pour it in. That's definitely an option as well. And I'm just gonna squirt some of this into this cup, and then we're gonna take another syringe and start putting that into the jar as well. Now you could just wash the syringes in between each one, but I'm not gonna do that. So once this is filled, we definitely have to let it degas a little bit before we do anything else. Wow. All right, so now that thing is full as possible. There is a little bit of a bubble at the top, but we can't really do much about that. We're just you kind of just live with it. And so, see all these bubbles. So I am gonna tap the glass just a little bit, try to get as many of those bubbles toward the top as possible. And then once this is degassed for a little bit, then we can seal it up with some UV resin. So for this one, we're gonna put glitter and the glycerin and water mixture in there. And so to put glitter in that little baby tiny hole, I'm gonna make like a little tape funnel to hopefully catch any of the glitter that like wants to come off. Now for this, I got some different Halloween glitters from Michael's. We got a glow in the dark on this little pack of Halloween ones. Then we also have some Mickey shaped glitter, and we have black and silver, so I think that's gonna be pretty cool. So I'm just kind of leaning the glass at an angle. That way the glitter will just naturally fall down the side and it's not gonna clog up the hole. But the ghosties are not wanting that to happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray the top of this with the isopropyl alcohol just to pick up any stray glitters, which is a lot apparently. And then I'll wipe the whole side as well. All right, but now we can make our solution of the glycerin to water. All right, for this, we're gonna do 2 parts glycerin to 1 part water. There are tons of different recipes for this. I found for me, this is my go-to because it's a nice slow flow, but it's not so slow that like you don't see anything happening. And then I'm hoping that should be enough solution to fill the cup, but if not, we can always just mix up another batch. So we just mix it up. You want to make sure you mix it up before you're putting any in your cup. I'm gonna have this tilted to the side. I think this one I did put a tiny bit too much water, just a little smidgen, so it might be a bit of a faster flow than I actually want it to be. What's nice too is that because these glasses are smaller than the Starbucks ones, you're not using as much of the solution. But if you're gonna do a bunch of these, I would just make a big old batch and put them in a, and put them in a squirt bottle and then just relax and do it. It looks like this was just the perfect amount of solution that we could have made. All right, I think I got as many bubbles out as I'm gonna get out, and now we just gotta let it do its thing overnight. So then we can come back tomorrow and seal these up and see how cool they look. Okay, so before we can seal up the bottoms of these with the UV resin, we need to make sure it's totally clear. So I'm gonna spray some of this isopropyl alcohol on a cloth and then wipe it down. Sometimes I'll do this a couple times just to really make sure, especially at the opening here, that there's nothing there that's gonna make it not stick. Once we seal these up as well, we will do a leak test where we'll put it on a paper towel and check in about an hour to see if any liquid is leaking out. So to cure this, I am using this little UV flashlight. So now that we've sealed this one up, we are going to flip it over and put it on this paper towel and see if we get any leaks. Alright, so now we can tackle this one. So for this one, since the hole isn't quite as filled, we can do it in layers, and hopefully that should help us out. Luckily, these cups had no leaks and they turned out looking freaking awesome. I cannot wait to use them for this spooky season. Let me know down below if you want to see more like this or if you have any questions or comments about the project.